76. Ownership rights and interest in real estate are called liens or encumbrances. B. Absolute land sales agreement. C. Estates or fees. D. All of the above. Correct answer is C. Estates or fees deal with the degree, quantity, nature, and extent of ownership rights and interest in real estate. 77. One of the main differences between real and personal property is that real property, A, can be held in joint tenancy, B, is immovable, C, is subject to depreciation over a period of time, D, can be willed. Correct answer is B. The primary difference between real property and personal property is that real property is generally immovable, personal property is generally movable. 78. A lessee rents a building from May 1 to July 1. His tenancy is A. month-to-month, B. periodic tenancy, C. fee simple estate, D. estate for years. Correct answer is D. An estate for years is a leasehold interest, for a definite period, with a specific beginning and terminating date. A month-to-month rental is a periodic tenancy and has no specific termination date. 79. A broker's authority to accept a deposit on behalf of the seller, or to hold the deposit check pending acceptance of an offer comes from which of the following? A. Deposit receipt, B. Escrow instructions, C. Listing agreement, D. Transfer disclosure statement. Correct answer is C. The broker's authority to accept a deposit is a normal provision of the listing agreement. 80. Economic rent is the rent received for comparable space in the economic open market. B. Charged under a contract. C. That the property would command in a perfectly informed market. D. Necessary to produce a competitive return to the owner. Correct answer is this is a good definition of economic rent. There probably is no such thing as a perfectly informed market. 81. A joint tenant can dispose of an interest held in real property by all of the following ways except A. Lease, B. Sale for excess consideration, C. Will, D. Mutual agreement. Correct answer is C. A joint tenant cannot will his interest in the property, because when creating joint tenancy, joint tenants agree that upon the death of a joint tenant, that interest will terminate, and hence there is no interest to be willed to another upon the death of a joint tenant. 82. Of indefinite duration is a characteristic which is particularly descriptive of an estate for years, B. estate for period to period, C. estate of inheritance, D. estate less than freehold. Correct answer is C. An estate of inheritance is a fee simple estate. In order to be a fee simple estate, it must be indefinite in duration, capable of being conveyed during life, or upon death. 83. John sold a property to Sam on an installment sale for income tax purposes. The buyer assumed an existing loan which exceeded John's basis in the property. John thus had loan relief, excess mortgage over bases. The excess amount must be deducted from the basis, B. made a part of the sales price, C. added to the basis, D. made a part of the down payment whether cash was received or not. Correct answer is D. The mortgage relief is considered part of the down payment and tax must be paid on it. For instance, the sales price is $9,000. The buyer is to pay $3,000 over the next 3 years and assume a $6,000 loan. The seller's basis is $5,000. The seller has a gain of $4,000. $1,000 is mortgage relief and recognized in the year of sale. 84. A percentage lease specified that the rent would be computed on the average rent paid during the lease. The monthly payments on the lease were $205 plus 2.5% of the tenant's gross annual receipts over $10,500. The tenant's gross receipts averaged $12,750 per month. Based on this information, what was the tenant's average monthly rental on this property? A $207.50, B. $231.75, C. $261.25, D. $501.88. Correct answer is D. $12,750 times 12 equals $153,000. 2. $153,000 minus $10,500 equals $142,500. 3. $142,500 by .025 equals $3,562.50. 4. $3,562.50 divided by 12 equals $296.88. 5. $296.88 plus 205 equals $501.88. 85. A single-family residence sells for $90,750 with an existing $30,000 first trust deed lien which the buyer assumed. There are no other liens or encumbrances in existence at this time. The property was subject to the documentary transfer tax at the rate of 55 cents per $500. This would result in a tax of most nearly at $57, B. $67, C. $83, D. $100. Correct answer is B. 1. $90,750 selling price $30,000 existing lien old money equals $60,750 new money subject to tax. 2. $60,750 new money divided by $500 tax base equals 121.5 tax units. 3. Note: for documentary transfer tax, always round up to the next whole unit, therefore 121.5 becomes 122 tax units. 4. 122 tax units x 55 cents tax rate equals $67.10. $67. Choice B is the closest choice. When an owner of real property is called a riparian owner, the land in question would border a river, b. a watercourse, c. a flowing stream, d. any of the above. Correct answer is D. When a landowner has riparian rights, it is the right to a reasonable and appropriate use of water from a flowing source, such as a river, stream, or watercourse. 87. A buyer defaulted on a real property installment sales contract that had been recorded by the seller. If a quitclaim deed were to be used to extinguish the cloud on the title, it must be executed by both buyer and seller. B. Seller only. C. Buyer only. D. None of the above. Correct answer is C. In the event of a default on a real property installment sales contract, land contract, in order to clear the cloud on title, the buyer could sign a quitclaim deed returning any equity interest the buyer had in the property to the seller. 88. The Commissioner's final public report on a residential development would include all of the following except assurances that the developer has fully met the requirements of the Subdivided Lands Act, b. assurances that financial arrangements have been made to provide any community improvements, c. assurances that the developer is not charging an excessive price for the properties, d. assurances that the developer has established the means to satisfy any warranties made to the purchasers. Correct answer is C. The Commissioner's final public report would not address the issue of the price of the properties. 89. The personal, revocable, and unassignable permission of authority to do one or more acts on the land of another without possessing any interest therein, is the definition of a license, b. an easement, c. an encroachment, d. an option. Correct answer is, this is a good definition of license. An easement and an option are not revocable, and an encroachment does not involve the permission of the owner of the property. 90. Which of the following is considered real property? Land and buildings, b. artificial items which are immovable by law, c. easements that convey rights of way over adjoining land, d. all of the above. Correct answer is D. Real property includes land, that which is attached to it physically or legally, and appurtenances, including easements. 91. When rent is computed on the gross sales of a business occupying real property, the lease is correctly termed a net lease, b. a gross lease, c. a voidable lease, d. a percentage lease. Correct answer is D. In a percentage lease, the rent is tied to a percentage of the gross receipts of a business. 92. If a man has a freehold estate, which of the following would result in his having a less than freehold estate? A sale and lease back, b. selling the mineral rights to a third party, c. giving a leasehold interest for 5 years, d. granting a life estate. Correct answer is A. A less than freehold estate is a landlord-tenant arrangement. If the choice is offered, only a sale-leaseback would result in a less than freehold estate. 93. If a man leased a store for only 6 months, he would have an estate from period to period, b. estate for years, c. estate at will, d. estate at sufferance. Correct answer is B. In an estate for years, the tenant has the use of the property for a specified period of time, which may be days, weeks, months, or years. 94. An easement differs from a license in that a license, it must be created by written instrument, b. is of indefinite duration, c. may be assigned, d. may be revoked. Correct answer is D. A license is the personal, revocable, non-assignable permission to do some act on the land of another. A ticket to a sports event is a license. 95. The remedy of unlawful detainer action is used by offended, grantors, b. holders of notes in default, c. lessors, d. trusters. Correct answer is C. The lessor is the landlord who is entitled to the reversionary interest in the property in the event the tenant has breached the lease and refuses to give up possession. 96. Mrs. Smith held a life estate in a single-family residence. The estate was based upon her own life. She leased the residence to Mr. Jones for a 5-year period, but died a few weeks after the lease began. The lease was invalid on its face because the holder of a life estate does not have the right to lease the property, b. valid for the remaining term of the lease, c. valid only during the life of the lessor, d. valid only if Mr. Jones was unaware of the life estate when the lease was created. Correct answer is C. The holder of a life estate has rights in the property only as long as the designated life exists. Upon the death of Mrs. Smith, her rights, and any lease based on those rights, would automatically terminate. 97. Which of the following is not a characteristic of a fee simple title? It is real encumbrances, b. it is of indefinite duration, c. it is transferable with or without consideration, d. it is transferable by will or intestate. Correct answer is a fee simple title is of indefinite duration, it can be transferred with or without consideration, and it is transferable by a will or by intestate succession. Encumbrances may be defined as anything which burdens or affects the title, such as easements, restrictions, encroachments, i.e., non-money encumbrances, or trust deeds, mortgages, judgments, etc., i.e., money encumbrances. 98. Which of the following rights of ownership in real property do individuals normally not have? A. Severance rights. B. Eminent domain rights. C. Riparian rights. D. Reliction rights. Correct answer is B. Eminent domain rights are those normally held by the various units of government, or quasi-governmental entities such as utilities. 99. As used in real property law, which of the following is most nearly correct as a meaning for the word tenancy? A. The landlord-tenant relationship. B. The absence of a holdover tenant. C. The mode or method of holding title to real property by a lessee or owner. D. None of the above. Correct answer is C. By definition, tenancy is the method or mode of holding title. 100. When a broker hires a salesperson under a valid independent contractor agreement, which of the following is correct? A broker may set the salesperson's office hours and assign floor time. B. Any unlicensed assistant of the salesperson must be an employee of the broker. C. Broker may be held liable for the salesperson's conduct in a real estate transaction. D. Broker must pay state unemployment insurance premiums for the salesperson. Correct answer is C. Whether the salesperson is an employee or an independent contractor. The California Bureau of Real Estate holds the broker responsible for the salesperson's conduct.